Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the digitally uploaded podcast, the companion podcast, digitallydownloaded.net. My name is Alan. I'm going to be your host for this week. And with me, as always, I have the venerable Matt. Hello, Matt.
Venerable, huh?
Venerable, yes. You've upgraded.
Venerable, that's your word of the day, isn't it?
It's a great word. It's not
It is
used
a good
enough.
word. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I approve of your use of this word. Hello, Alan.
Hello. We also have Trent. Hello, Trent. How are you?
Hello. I'm well, I guess.
And Harvard's here.
Hello, I've heard there's this cultural thing in UK where if someone asks you how you are, you can only say you're good.
Well, yeah, because if you display any other emotion, you're a coward. And
We do that in Australia too, especially when you're
Patel's
dying inside.
Pretty Patel's going to pick you up and throw you into the Thames and then shoot at you with a rifle. That's the way to do it.
That's peak UK culture.
um, we have a lot to talk about this week, but to begin with, we always usually have to go through what we're playing, and I feel like it's time to sort of do that. So I'm going to actually ask Matt, because I feel like I've been following your Twitter. You've been chatting some shit, and I'm interested in seeing what exactly you've been playing.
What's new about me talking shit?
Seen it coming.
What have I been playing? I've been playing of the new games. I've been playing Goichi Suda's No More Heroes 3 is what I've been playing. That's pretty good, Alan.
I'm really excited. I was so close to buying it, but like I'm trying to be really smart at the moment, and it was like, oh, can I justify it? Can I not? But I believe it's really, really fun, cool. Everything I've seen, like it's my vibe.
It's great. It's great. And the thing was it's not the only great thing that I played this week. I also played a little independent, I guess you could call it, game called Tormented Souls, which is this horror throwback to the PlayStation 1 era, tank controls and set camera angles and all the rest. And it's really, really good as well. It's quite extreme horror. It's very very out there in some of the imagery, but it's really good. I very much enjoyed that, as well as somebody who enjoyed Silent Hills and whatever of yesteryear. So you probably enjoyed too, Alan. You like a bit of the old spooks.
What's it called? Sorry.
Tormented Souls.
Tormented Souls. All right. I'm gonna ask you to tweet that at me later on, because it is 11
Yes.
o'clock. It's 10 o'clock.
I've also got all the anime girls to tweet at you. They're all
hell yeah,
ready to go.
I mean, as a Xenogears fan and a Xenoblade fan at this point, like that's all my personality basically. So hell yeah. Harvard, what have you been playing this week or this month?
Yeah, this month. So I think last podcast I said there was going to be a quiet month for games, and I was right. I wasn't really interested in a lot of things that came out. I've been playing still Tony Hawk 1 and 2 as a modern game.
It's so good. It's so
It-
good.
It
Just
is,
a
but I
bit,
can't
just
tell
a
if
bit
I'm
hard,
old
but you're
because
just getting practicing for skateboard though, right?
I absolutely am. Yes, I'm going to be the world's best skateboard player. And I've also been playing this Star Wars game that's has the most generic name called
Jedi Fallen Order.
Nope, Republic Commando, which is like an old Xbox Star Wars game, and it's pretty fun.
It's a Metroid Prime, but more shootery.
It just feels like a normal shooter so far.
When you get to the part like on Genosha, you'll be like, oofed. It's a good game. That's a really good game. I'm just glad you're playing it. That game does not get talked about enough. It was during the time when LucasArts was actually experimenting with different things, and they wanted to make Rainbow Six, so they made Rainbow Six but Star Wars.
And yeah, it's weird. It's like a squad first-person shooter.
Yeah, it's
but
cool.
There's like my favorite thing about it, though. Sorry to take up all this time, but the thing in the movies where the stormtroopers and the droids never hit their shots is replicated here because your gun is extremely inaccurate, and so is everybody else's.
Yeah, it's the perfect sort of console, like first-person shooter, just because it's designed for that controller. Like that's all it is, and they needed to have that sort of aim assist and that sort of wild, like, you point in one direction, the bullet goes 90 degrees in the other direction.
That makes sense because you can't aim, so that you might as well just spray everywhere. Oh, it's so smart.
Yeah, now you're thinking with Portals. It is a really good game though. It's on everything I think at this point, and it's genuinely worthwhile playing. It's pretty fun. It makes the whole Clone Wars stuff actually palatable and not horrific. So that's a victory in its own regard. Trent, what have you been playing this month?
Well, this week I've been playing 12 Minutes. So that's the fun, cool new game. It was on Xbox, so I picked it up on the Game Pass. I don't know if it's actually new this month or not, but I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's out just
so
this week. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, the concept is, you're like come home after a big long day, you find your wife there, she wants to tell you some surprises, and then 12 minutes later, a police guy comes in and is like arresting you, and then like if you like struggle, he like kills you. And basically, it's a point and click and adventure game where you have to collect a bunch of stuff to work out the mystery and to get more dialogue options to ask certain things, and also identify where certain items are to progress the story. So it's just a time loop game as well. So yeah,
That's
fun.
cool. I've heard a lot about it. It is on Xbox Game Pass. So like, frankly, if you have an Xbox or if you have a PC that has Game Pass on it, it probably is worth checking out. It's on my list for sure. Like, definitely. It's been getting a lot of clout recently, actually, which is exciting for a narrative game like that, where it's not just like a walking sim. Like, there is actually a game behind it, and I kind of like that a lot. So here's hoping it's takes off a bit more. And there's more shorter experiences that look worse, and the developers are paid more, and I'm not going to fight with it. So I've also personally been playing a lot of Psychonauts 2 this last
Yeah,
week.
that was out this week too, wasn't it?
I'm very confident in saying that
week.
it is fighting with Resi 8 for my game of the year. It is phenomenal. It is everything that I wanted from a video game that is a 3D platformer. It's not like Mario Odyssey, where I got really bored with every single world about 2 minutes in. At this point, I've only streamed the first major level into the game, so take this with a grain of salt. But that entire first level, every single room was so different, and the colors were so striking, and it was so imaginative and interesting, and also the writing is phenomenal. Like, it is truly fantastic, and it's exactly what I would have wanted from a game like Psychonauts to be brought into the modern age. And all it's really made me want to do is see them remake Psychonauts 1 with the same frame rate, with the same level of detail, all that sort of stuff, because they're clearly very capable of doing it. And that's personally really exciting for me as someone who doesn't really like platformers, but likes when platformers are actually sort of built around a concept that's interesting, rather than desert world, sand world, water world, ice world, Kevin Costner world. It's not, it's more than just a platformer, and it actually seems to really care about that, which I personally really, really like. So that's also on Xbox Game Pass. It's on PS4 as well, PS5, everything. It's literally on everything, because it's a big-ish game, and it's wholly worth it in my opinion so far. I've spent 4 hours or so playing it, just because of the way that time's worked out so far. And yeah, I'm already absolutely smitten with it. It's truly wonderful. So give that a whirl if you can. I would heavily recommend it. We are probably going to move on to some music now, and I'm actually going to ask Matt to let me pick the Miku music, because I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's a regular Hatsune Miku music.
You can pick the music, Alan.
Thank you. And welcome back from that. So it is the dawn of a new month, as it tends to be when we record this podcast. What a shocking concept. As a result of that, some stuff is coming out because, of course, capitalism ensures that there is always content, and content is good, as we all know. And Matt is very keen to assert to me on a regular basis. So, Matt, what content is coming out this month?
Yes, let's talk about content. Content makes me happy. Okie dokie. So,
It's taking me all my energy, not just to be like, consume content.
consume content. Okay, so we'll start with PlayStation 5, shall we? There is games coming out on PlayStation 5. You could fool me, but there is apparently. On September 2, there is a little game called Kitaria Fables coming out. Now, that's cute. That's been published by P-Cube. I think it's actually developed by P-Cube as well. It's one of their own games. And, yeah, it's like a Harvest Moon Rune Factory style game, which is a blend of RPG and farming elements where you play as a cat, and it's a cute cat. So, yeah, it's good. It's charming. I played it a little bit, and I'm enjoying it. So there you go. That's the first game coming out on PlayStation 5 next month. Also, we've got Rico London, which is a roguelike shooter thing. It's a sequel to Rico, just Rico, I think the original one was called. And it was actually all right. The roguelike elements made the shooty bits more tolerable, I think. And yeah, that's actually probably a game that will find itself a little bit a cult audience as such. It's all right. It's all right. Scrolling on. We've got the remake, re-release, possibly just port. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing to it, but about a decade ago, there was Blood Rain Betrayal released on PlayStation 3. It was one of the earlier digital-only releases on the PlayStation Network, and it is Blood Rain. That is the sexy woman vampire character.
It's the Uwe Boll movie.
Yeah, Uwe Boll made a movie about it. It was not a good movie, but the games themselves were all right. WayForward, the excellent developer of 2D platformers, made a 2D platformer, and that's Blood Rain Betrayal. So it's got good graphics. It's a very difficult game from memory, so people that like their challenging games will enjoy it. And yeah, I was surprised to see that it was coming back, but it is, and I'm looking forward to playing that again. Life is Strange True Colors comes out on September 10, and every time I see True Colors, I think Cyndi Lauper. So I don't know if she's done the soundtrack. It would be a missed opportunity if Cyndi Lauper is not doing the soundtrack for Life is Strange True Colors, but there you go. I'm sure that'll be all right.
The answer to that. So the soundtrack for True Colors was commissioned by Angus and Julia Stone, which, good for them, but not Cyndi Lauper.
Let's go! Yeah! Australia! Yeah!
Yeah, they wrote an entire album to soundtrack that game, which is pretty cool.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Actually radical. Hell yeah.
That's
It's
nice
like how Tell Me Lies. No, Telling Lies. I kept thinking of a song, Tell Me Lies, like the Fleetwood Mac song.
Yeah. I mean,
see, I think that would be perfect for the game too. They should have had that in the soundtrack. Missed opportunity that they didn't.
This is a bit
Every
like,
game
out of
should
the
be
way.
Burnout Paradise with Paradise City.
Oh. You stole my bit, Harvard. God damn it.
It's like Dead or Alive should have the soundtrack done by Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
You spin me round as the kind of the music as you're fighting and beating up people. There is opportunities for licensed music, and people don't make enough of those opportunities.
I would argue that Devil May Cry does that because I've listened to Bury the Light on my own without playing Devil May Cry 5 so many times. It's such a banger. Like, you know that meme of the dude with the aux cord? Like, all right, don't play trash. That's my energy. Just playing Bury the Light on repeat for like 7 hours. Sorry.
Moving on. Life is Strange True Colors, that comes out on September 10. Also on September 10, Tales of Arise comes out. You can play that right now. There's a demo that you can test things out and discover that the combat system is Tales combat all over again, which means that it's not going to click for some people, including me. But the game itself is very pretty, and I'm hoping that playing the full game rather than the demo, which drops you in midway through, I'm hoping that playing the full game, I'll actually get to make sense of the combat system, because everything else about the game does seem to be quite enjoyable.
I saw that you posted a video of the combat on your YouTube channel, and I was gonna say that's quite a risky move, given that one of our most popular videos is the Tales of Vesperia combat video.
Yeah, I know. I try not to talk too much about Tales games because I got yelled at one time for not liking them in the right way. The game has put me in my place big time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm actually looking forward to getting stuck into the full game. I do think that with the proper tutorials at the start of the game and the difficulty curve or the learning curve from the early stages, it'll probably click for me a little bit better. So anyway, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that. That comes out on September 10. Also on September 10, if you like your basketballs, there's NBA 2K22. If you like your
Please
basketballs,
don't support
and
it. Please don't support it. It's bad.
I was going to say, if you like your basketballs, an awful lot of microtransactions and giving
It's so
2K lots of
depressing.
money just to play a game that you already bought, there you go. You can do that with NBA 2K22.
It's horrific. It's
If
actually
you're
horrific.
if you like crappy games, then Deathloop comes out on September 14th.
No, don't say that. It's arcane. No, you're not allowed to say that. They made a Bond theme.
Bro. It's going to be do, bro.
They made a Bond theme, and I liked the Bond theme. It's
Bethesda
good.
is a studio of frat boys, and I'm sure Deathloop's going to be.
Activision Blizzard would like to argue with that. Oh.
Oh, Blizzard's pretty frat boy too, so it's a thing.
Oh, they've all been fired.
Yeah, they'll be rehired again once it all blows over. You watch. That's what they do.
Like wearing the Groucho Marx glasses. It's messy Nick Cream.
That's exactly how they do it.
Fuck Blizzard.
Yeah. Anyway, in all seriousness, I'm sure people that like Arcane games, because Arcane's a pretty talented developer within the context of the Bethesda group, Deathloop should be alright. It's blaxploitation anyway, which is a pretty underused cinema genre to base a video game around. So I don't know. I'm more interested in looking at that one than pretty much anything else Bethesda churns out. What else have we got? We've got on September 17 Origami 2, which is a sequel to a stealth. I want to say action, but not really. It's a stealth, like it's a pure stealth game, Origami, and it was alright. It had its issues, but hopefully they've been smoothed over for the sequel because the concept was pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a game that had genuine promise, but was held back by the fact that it was very, like, obviously trying a lot of things at the same time. So
yeah, and it's hard. It is hard to make a stealth game. Like, let's face it, that is not an easy genre to develop for. So the fact that they were a fairly new developer, I'm pretty sure that was their first title. That was a learning curve for them. I'm genuinely looking forward to testing this one out. I think it'll be a much improved experience. What else we got? I'm still scrolling through. Speaking of the company that is crap, Diablo 2 Resurrected does come out in September.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset that they've ruined one of my favorite games of all time. Like, Diablo 2 is so good.
I am very conflicted over this. Like, I don't think that you're a bad person if you buy a Diablo game, even despite Blizzard being an absolutely terrible game company. But it does make it harder, doesn't it?
It's rough for me because Diablo 2 was my formative online gaming experience. It was the first game that I played online properly, and it was on dial-up internet in Australia. We had 5 gig limit download for the month, and this is in 2009. Like, by this point, the rest of the world was downloading at a reasonable rate. And it looks
Australian
really
culture.
good. It looks really good. Like, the remake looks so good. It's everything that I wanted it to be, but I can't justify it. I seriously cannot.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so
a
Right, big list
is
of
a difficult.
Diablo likes.
Yeah, but I've played them all, and they're not as good as Diablo 2. The thing that sucks. Like, nothing will be as good as playing Lord of Destruction. It's absurd.
It is a difficult one. It is genuinely difficult because Blizzard has been such a terrible company, as we've discovered over the last couple of weeks now, and it does make it hard to want to support them, I guess, because you do know if you buy the game, then you are effectively supporting them, and you don't want to do that. On the other hand, once again, I don't think that if you are comfortable with making the purchase, it doesn't make you a bad person.
No,
There does seem to be a bit of judgment, kind of working its way into people that are talking about Diablo 2, and I don't think that's right either. Like, if people are pumped about it and want to play it and do play it, then leave them alone. They weren't the ones that were responsible for what happened at Blizzard. Anyway, moving on. Lost Judgment comes out on September 24. That be the sequel of Judgment.
yeah.
And Judgment was a really good game. Really, really good game.
Wait, there's
not
a
talked
sequel
about
to it?
enough. Yeah, sequel.
It's
I thought,
Coppiza.
I thought they weren't going to make it anymore because of that one guy from Johnny's Boys.
No, sequel.
Oh.
I thought it was not till later this year, like October or something, or
Well,
November.
this is the thing. This is the thing, because it's not Yakuza, nobody gives a crap about it, and that's really unfortunate. Nobody's pumped for this game, but they should be, because it is the sequel to an excellent game. Just wasn't called Yakuza, but it is Yakuza in every other way but name.
And is it like
Anyway.
a big release? Like it's worldwide, like on like that same day? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's coming out on September 24th, so soon. Play it, people. Play it. Also on September 24, my man Kojima comes through with the director's cut of Death Stranding. I'm so looking forward to playing that again.
Can I point out-
the
I love
machines where you shoot
Kojima.
stuff.
He's the best.
I want to point out the heel turn that Matt did on Kojima. Because it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in any sort of like professional capacity, where a man who has slagged off Kojima for, I want to say, like the entire time that I knew you before Death Stranding was even announced. And then following Death Stranding, you're like, oh yeah, he's actually pretty good. He's actually pretty good. I like him.
Dude absolutely nailed it, didn't he? Like, remember that Death Stranding came out before COVID hit. And Death Stranding just like predicted every single thing that's happened since. I mean, other than ghosty things in the air slamming people with their feet. But
that's every Kojima game, though. It's like, oh yeah, the memes are going to control the world, but also there's an octopus man. So it's like realism, and then a man shoots bees out of a Tommy gun.
But the idea of everybody kind of hiding away inside their little fortresses and only being sustained by couriers that are dropping shit off at them, that is all just nailed it. He got it right. He predicted the future. So yeah, there you go. Anyway,
it will not be the last. His next game will be predicting some insane shit. We'll be like, oh, that's ridiculous. Don't talk about that. And then Squids will.
And then a year later it'll happen.
Yeah. and then Squids will invade us. No More Heroes 3 is actually secretly a Kojima game.
Anyway, yeah, very, very much looking forward to playing that again. That was good. What else we got? We got FIFA 22s if you like your kickballs.
Don't
that
buy
comes out
it.
September 27th. It also has lots of microtransactions, so if you like paying a lot of money even after you've already bought a game, then you can do that with FIFA's 2. I don't know why I just sung things there. Anyway, that's it for the PlayStation 5. That was just the PlayStation 5. PlayStation 4, what do we got? We've got, I'm scrolling through the list. A lot of the stuff that was coming out on PlayStation 5 is also coming out on PS4. So Rico London and Kitaria Fables, they're all getting PlayStation 4 releases as well. Golf Club Wasteland comes out on September 3. Human life is wiped out, so people play golf. I like the idea of that game.
That just sounds like the 1%. That's just the 1% now. Oh, time to play golf. Yeah.
It's so true.
See, it's disappointing. Death Stranding needed a golf. Like it's got like a Forza. It's got a Forza version in it, but needed golf. Imagine playing golf in Death Stranding. How cool would that be? And then like suddenly gets stuck in like the darkness, like rain stuff, and then you like and the ball destroys itself or something. I don't know. How cool. That would be fun.
Moving on. Tales of Arise comes out on PlayStation 4 as well. So does Life is Strange True Colors. So does NBA Basketballs. So that's all stuff that we've already talked about. Skatebird comes out on September 16, and Skatebird is going to be a Game of the Year contender, and I'm not even joking about that. It's going to be awesome. I don't even like skate games, but when you put a bird on the skateboard, then suddenly it's going to be good. I know Harvard's really looking forward to that. What else we got? Keen Bridge of Spirits comes out on September 21. I feel like I should know something about that game. I feel like it's being hyped up a bit.
Really cute, sort of like Pixar-y sort of trailer that came out maybe like a year ago. It's got the Theophany guy, the guy who did the Majora's Mask remixes, and the Metroid remixes on YouTube. So the soundtrack's gonna be phenomenal. I'm already really excited just about the soundtrack. It really does look like a Pixar movie. Obviously not as high budget as something like Ratchet and Clank, so it's not going to look 100% like a Pixar movie. But at the same time, like, you know, it looks pretty spectacular, regardless. Anyway,
that would probably be why I know
fun.
something. That would probably be why I know something about it. It does look good.
Yeah.
Just looking at the little image here that I've got here, I'll give it a go anyway. On September 28, we've got Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot: The First Cases. Now that is a new Hercule Poirot game, and the last one was all right. It's an all right series. They're detective kind of point and click adventure game things, and Hercule Poirot is an excellent character, and they do all right with him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that just because it'll be fine. I'm not expecting it to be Game of the Year stuff or anything, but it'll be an enjoyable time.
I mean, that's the thing with that sort of game. Sorry, I'm just going to pause you there for a
ahead.
second. That sort of game, it's like when you're a child and you walk in and like your parents are watching like Midsummer Murders. Like, you know, you're not getting the best shit in the world, but what you're getting is like popcorn shit, you know?
And it works, you know.
It's fine.
It's
a
reliable
good time.
entertainment. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I'm expecting pretty much that from this one. Oh gosh, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, and Harvard's going to be very upset with me because it's a Chinese game. Yuan Sword 7 Yuan 1.
You're pronouncing
really
like
bad.
You're pronouncing it like a Spaniard. How do you spell it?
I'm really bad at pronouncing Chinese names, and I feel terrible about this. But anyway, Xuan Yuan. Yuan.
Would be like Xuan Yuan, maybe.
There we
I don't
go.
know. My Chinese is also terrible.
So I apologize for anybody listening that I've butchered that so badly. In the West, the previous one was translated to be Sword and Fairy 6. I don't know why they haven't translated it to give it a Western name this time around, but that is a good series. And I've actually played this. This was already released over in Hong Kong in English last year. It's actually really, really good. It's kind of the Final Fantasy from China as such. It's got that mainstream, big time blockbuster appeal. They made TV shows about it over there. They haven't really localized them in the past to the West, but they did localize Sword and Fairy 6, and now they're releasing this one globally. And it's good. I very highly recommend it if you're into Chinese history and mythology and stuff. It taps into all of that, and it's quite pretty, and it's pretty well designed too. So yeah, it's one of those games that'll probably coast under the radar and not many people will notice it, but I'm saying here, give it a go.
Interesting piece of trivia here. It says that it's based on the crypt of Marquis of Liu, which is the historical figure with the same family name as me. I'm descended from an emperor or something.
Oh, there you go. Well, then we should definitely play it. We can learn about Harvard's family roots.
Harvard, you just doxed yourself.
Don't worry, there's like a billion people with the surname Liu. You're not gonna find me.
I'll find you.
On September 30, we've got Mary Skelter Finale coming out everywhere but Australia. It got banned in Australia.
Oh, that is a massive game if I've ever seen one. That is the most...
No, Alan, this series is genuinely good. It's legit. I mean, yes, it has the fan service stuff, but
it has the blood licking.
It does have blood. You lick your blood and then you go berserk and you get naked. But
I want to pause you there for a moment. I'm really sorry. Think about what you just said. Really think about it.
To be honest, it's not that far off from like anime conventions, right? You can bite your thumb, you can like eat a piece of food and your clothes explode off, and you can lick supernatural blood off somebody else. It's just an anime. It's an anime convention.
Sometimes I forget that I've got no idea about this stuff, and then you say something to me, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm very blasé about it." And I
you not
realize
watch the anime where you eat food and your clothes explode off.
no, because I watched JoJo. It's just big dudes. They punch people with ghosts, and it's sick.
You know that JoJo was inspired by like the guy's fan. He was a big time fan of Greek statues, like classical Greek statues, and all the poses they did. So that was him kind of taking the piss on all of that. So yeah,
I love that shit. The best part about it is I have the hardback manga thing of JoJo's Part 2, like book 1, and it has maybe the most homoerotic image I've ever seen of a man on the like front cover.
yeah, it's great.
Like,
it's really great.
It's
I love
gay
JoJo's
and it's
as well.
fucking awesome. Hell yeah, dude.
But back to Mary Skelter. Mary Skelter is legit. It's a dungeon crawler in the Etrian Odyssey vein, where you get the kind of the superpowered monsters that chase you around, and yeah, it's mechanically a very, very solid series. So I'm going to import it somehow, I guess, to play it. It got banned in Australia because Australia doesn't like anime at all. But yeah, I know that this series has some fans, and they'll check it out, and that'll be that. There's also
a
fighting
game on Etrian Odyssey, but it's like one of the last ways to play an Etrian Odyssey like game now, which is very sad.
Yeah, we're not going to get Etrian Odyssey back anytime soon. So Mary Skelter is kind of the spiritual replacement for it. Also on September 30, there is a fighting game coming out if you're into your really hardcore fighting games. Melty Blood, Type Lumina.
So this game series is cool as hell, but has the worst name I've ever seen in my life. It is almost unsellable.
I don't know what Melty Blood is even meant to refer to.
No,
but...
no one does. No one fucking, not even the creators.
Sounds like melting blood. Like, is it melting blood?
No,
melting
blood.
blood, like an adjective.
Melting?
Yeah, melty.
It's just
like chocolate. It's melting.
Just call it anime fighting game number 1. Just call it that.
But jokes aside, it is a genuinely good.
Oh, it's really good.
Series.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. It's
when
very.
You get past the fact that you have to explain the name to your friends when you say, "Oh no, but you don't understand." It's actually really good, though. It just has the worst name of all time, and that's coming from a genre that has XR'd in the name at some point. Like it's.
To be fair, though, all video game names are pretty average, though. Like like Fortnite. That's like a really. That's like just like a descriptive word for like how long it takes to do 14 days. It has nothing to do with the game. Like, stuff like that. Like,
no, my favorite one of all time is still Kingdom Hearts because they spent 3 games trying to define what Kingdom Hearts is and then changed it for no reason.
It's still not clear exactly what Kingdom Hearts is.
No one knows what that shit is, and no one will ever know. And yet, it's the main title, so good on them. Well done.
Moving on, there is one more game coming out on the PlayStations in September worth considering. I actually don't know much about this one, but the description caught my attention. It's called Astria Ascending, and in it, you explore a vast world on the brink of chaos in a mature, emotional JRPG. Experience an epic story with rewarding turn-based combat and expansive customization rendered in glorious 4K hand-drawn visuals. So that
are they going to kill chaos though?
I've seen the art for this. It's
let's have a look, shall we?
Someone famous is on it. I can't remember who, but someone famous is on it.
Let's have a quick look while we're talking so I can be impressed on the podcast itself. Oh yeah, this is a good looking game. Actually, I think this was released, or a game by this developer was released on the iOS a long, long time ago. And I don't think it's there anymore because iOS updates and whatever. So this might be their effort to preserve that. That was a free-to-play game that was ruined by the microtransactions anyway. If this is that quality, but in a way that's actually playable and enjoyable, then yeah, it'll be good. It is a very good-looking game, and I will definitely play it. Moving on to Switch, and Alan just sent me a note to say we should move on soon. But there's been a lot of games coming out. September's going to be busy, I get the feeling. So I'll run through the Switch ones quickly and just see if there's anything here that we haven't already talked about. Demon Gaze Extra comes out on September 2. That is another dungeon crawler with very good aesthetics and stuff. So if Mary Skelter isn't your thing, then give a Demon Gaze a go because it's a pretty good looking game as well. We've got, I'm trying to run through them as fast as I can. Alan, don't yell at me.
WarioWare, that comes out. Bam,
I'm so
done.
angry. Oh.
Sonic Colors Ultimate. Oh no, I just did the Sonic Colors.
I was so excited and then so sad.
Sonic Colors Ultimate comes out on September 7. If you like that stupid blue hedgehog, then there you go. He's out again on September 7. On September 9, there's a visual novel that I've been looking forward to since I saw it in the Switch store lineup called Olympia Soiree. I can never say soiree. It's not my word. But yeah, that's a really good looking visual novel from the Automata people over at Compile Heart. Typical, very good looking visual novel with excellent aesthetics and stuff. Looking forward to that. Dice Legacy comes out on September 9. If you like me, like rolling dice, then there you go. It's a dice-based survival city builder, which just sounds great. Just great. Moving on. We're scrolling. Life is Strange does come out on Switch as well, so does the basketballs game. Colors Live comes out on September 14. Now, Colors was actually pretty good on the DS. It's a little kind of art app, and that's it. But you can share your art online, and it ended up with a pretty big gallery of people sharing art and stuff. So there you go. It's not really a game. It's just a little art toy thing. Skatebird comes out on Switch as well. Ni no Kuni 2 gets its long-awaited Switch release on Switch on September 17. That's good. Scrolling on. Diablo 2 also comes out on Switch if you can handle Blizzard. So Nintendo doesn't release anything on Switch really in September. There you go. Did not know that.
Metroid's in October, isn't it?
Yeah. So the Switch finishes out the end of the month on September 30 with a port of Darksiders 3, which was pretty alright. Darksiders via Dark Souls. I mean, it was an effort to do Darksiders in the Dark Souls style, and it was pretty good. So yeah, there's no Nintendo games coming out on Switch in September, which is fine, I guess. You can just play other stuff.
WarioWare.
I didn't see that listed.
How do you hate WarioWare?
That's not listed on my thing. It's not on my list.
It should come out like the 7th or whatever.
September 10. September 10 is what it says on Google.
Well, Metacritic's lying to me. Oh no, there it is. Sorry, I skipped past it. Yeah, WarioWare is the one Nintendo game that comes out in September. So if you like,
get it together, Matt. Get it together.
Random micro games, 200 of them in this one. You can play that. All right, so quickly, we're going to have to be quick, otherwise Alan's going to.
I'm already angry. I'm
See, it's
so
Alan
angry.
rushing Matt. He forgot WarioWare.
Pick one game, Trent. What's your game of the month? What are you looking for?
I'm gonna go with Life is Strange. I'm gonna play some True Colors.
Cyndi Lauper. Okay. Harvard, what's your?
I'm really down for WarioWare. I don't know why, but I'm really down for this series.
WarioWare over Skatebird, huh?
I mean, I will play Skatebird too, but WarioWare's a good series.
I played the demo. It was pretty cool. So it's probably a good pick.
Okay. Alan?
I'm an idiot, and even though I say don't buy FIFA, I'm probably going to buy FIFA because I hate myself.
You do like the kickballs?
I'm an idiot. I'm a massive idiot.
And for me, I'm probably going to. I mean, my pick of the month will be Mary Skelter. I think I can't say no
the
to a
least
game
surprising thing.
where you eat the food, your clothes explode, and then you lick some blood. I mean, that's a great game.
A paddy wagon is on its way to your house right now, Matt.
To all of you American girls, it's sad to imagine a world without you. American girls, I'd like to be part of the world around you. Driving a car by the seaside, watching the world from the bright side. To all of you American girls in the movies, no one can tell where your heart is. American girls like dollies, with shiny smiles and plastic bodies. I wish I had an American girlfriend. I cry sometimes, walking around my own place, wondering why she cries sometimes, talking about her own place, somewhere around the mountains. No one could dry her fountain till she got tired to complain. That's when I fly to the wild land, to your land.
And welcome back. That was actually American Girls by Sid Matters from the Life is Strange soundtrack. We thought it was appropriate because we had Life is Strange True Colors coming out, so let's freaking go. Now, hypothetically, let's say that you wanted to play a PlayStation 2 game and you didn't have access to a PlayStation 2. However, what you did have is another form of physical media that you could potentially play some PlayStation 2 games on. And I'm saying that it might be a PS5, you might be downloading PlayStation 5 games off of the PlayStation Network, but you also might not be using that platform. You might notice that the PS2 is one of the greatest consoles of all time. It was actually the first console that I ever personally owned myself, and because of that, it is ever going to have a place in my heart. There are a lot of games on that console that are truly phenomenal, very weird, very out there, very odd, and as a result, pretty bloody cool. Now, Matt, in a hypothetical world,
There's nothing hypothetical about it. I downloaded an emulator and I'm playing the game. I'm playing the games from the PlayStation 2 that nobody else could be bothered preserving. And if the cops want to come and arrest me, then whatever.
Second paddy wagon is on its way to Matt's house.
Whatever. No, I'm only playing games I already own anyway. It's just because I've got the discs and stuff, and I've got no PlayStation to play them on. So like Alan kind of introduced there, I have been very busy over the last couple of weeks rediscovering my love of the PlayStation, because there are a lot of games on that console that have not been preserved for one reason or another. So, for example, EA released a bunch of really good Lord of the Rings games on the PlayStation 2.
I saw you tweeting.
Yes, I know it's crazy. I'm fanboying over EA from a couple of decades ago, but EA used to be a good company, and they did a really good job with the Lord of the Rings franchise. They did a couple of action games, which are kind of Dynasty Warriors-like, which were really good. And then they also did this one called The Third Age, which is a Final Fantasy X clone.
It's so crazy. I love it.
And it just works. It's really good. I've been rediscovering that. I love that game. So, yeah, and that's one example of games that have not been preserved because the companies can't. EA doesn't have the license for it anymore. Even if they wanted to re-release those games, they couldn't. And then there's just a bunch that they've let die. For example, Capcom was an absolute legend of publishing weird stuff on PlayStation 2. Like these days we know Capcom has been Monster Hunter and Street Fighter, and that's about it, right? But back then they were just, and Resident Evil, of course. Back then they were doing all kinds of quirky stuff like Clock Tower 3, Haunting Ground,
Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe, what was it, PN05? Does anybody remember that one?
That doesn't sound like a real game.
Remember when Onimusha was a thing, and then they decided to not make
a whole bunch
Onimusha a thing?
Yeah, Onimusha, and not just they were major things. That even I think it was Onimusha 3 had Jean Reno as
it did. It had Jean Reno. It literally
shows
had
up, right?
Leon the Professional, and he's a Frenchman. He gets sent back in time to kill Oni. It's never explained properly. It's great.
You sound like you're taking the piss.
No, that's a real game.
Sounds the most fake thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's wonderful.
It's quite serious. And then they also did stuff like Chaos Legion. They're never going to save Chaos Legion. Chaos Legion was this thing they produced around the time that Devil May Cry was really popular, and most people just dismissed it as being a very inferior game to Devil May Cry. But going back and playing it now, it's really great. So, yeah, I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 2 games and been very disappointed that a lot of them aren't preserved unless you do things like what I done and risk the wrath of the cops, because I'm sure that's
criminal,
priority.
Matt,
I'm sure that's their priority right
mosquito.
now around the world. I'm sure their big priority is tracking down people that are playing games on emulators. But there you go. That's it. PlayStation 2, great console. Unlike
Maybe the
Alan,
hot take is that the Capcom games which deserve to be preserved, like Okami, have already been preserved. Ooh.
no way. I mean, Clock Tower 3, right? Clock Tower 3 is a game that Capcom's never bothered looking at again, and probably can't for various reasons. One of the main reasons being the director of that game was Kinji Fukusaku. I think that's his last name. I can never remember it. I write it down.
Right. It sounds right. I think that's him, yeah.
His first name's definitely Kinji, but I can't remember his last name. He's actually Fukusaku. Anyway, he is a legend of Japanese filmmaking. He basically reinvented the Yakuza film concept and genre, and he was one of the most high-profile directors. He was the guy that directed Battle Royale, the excellent film before Fortnite came along and ruined Battle Royales for everyone. He directed Clock Tower 3. It was his last project before he died. And the game has this most amazing cinematic quality. It was trashed at the time because it wasn't long enough. There wasn't enough contents in it. But now I think people that are playing it, anybody who plays it now will realize that it was this amazingly cinematic, super high quality game with some incredible narrative and production values and all the rest of it.
I would truly encourage everyone who has not heard of this game to go look up at least like the first cutscene and feel the energy behind it, because there is nothing like it. It is almost theater-esque. It is so over the top, so like brimming with energy for this like pretty grotesque, like gruesome game. Like, let's be real here. It's not a nice game. It's very
no. Serial. It's a game about serial killers chasing a school around. And the serial killers are actually based on real life serial killers. So it's got that extra dimension of being super creepy because of that. It is a pretty intense game in a lot of ways. The first serial killer that you run into, the first time you see him, he's smashing a little girl's head in with a big sledgehammer.
Did you ever see that review? Did you see that review from when the game came out saying this game is awful, it's atrocious, it has a girl getting her head hit in by a hammer?
Read a review. That's a pretty funny one, actually. I liked it. But anyway, it is a pretty brutal game, but it does have the most amazing cinematic quality. It was definitely a game that only a film director would get behind, and for that reason, I don't think they can actually do anything with it, because if they remade it, then it'd be kind of an insult to the memory of the director. If they just re-released it, it'd get trashed because the PlayStation 2 games look crap.
I disagree. I love that era. It's so nice.
Oh no, you and I might, Alan, but we're old.
Don't.
I haven't seen all the Nintendo fans being like, "This looks like a PS2 game" on every single Pokemon game now.
Jim Ryan disagree with you, Alan.
Jim Ryan can eat my bum. I went for I tried to censor myself because I was gonna be much ruder, but I decided that bum was the correct way to go. To that point, though, Matt, have you ever played Rule of Rose?
I have just started that. I did.
Hell yeah!
I must admit that one I don't have the disc for, so please don't come for me, Cox.
Because if you want to buy that disc, it's like $400 Australian dollars. No game is worth $400. Absurd.
I know, but I actually remember skipping that one because all the reviews at the time were like, "Oh, it plays like crap," and I used to give reviews credibility. I say this as a guy that reviews games,
That
but
was everyone.
but everybody slammed Rule of Rose as being this janky as anything game. But playing it now, I mean, I can see that it is janky. It's obviously janky, but the game is brilliant.
It's the only
nice.
game to actually approach those themes apart from Silent Hill 2.
I mean, I'd
You
say
might actually get a re-release of that one. Actually, I just remembered because that's the company behind Moon, and they did an AMA after they released Moon, and lots of people were like, "We want Tulip and we want Rule of Rose," and they were like, "Maybe."
Like they made Tulip.
yeah.
What?
There's a company called Onion Games, and Onion Games seems to be focused on saving the most cult games they can find. They were the ones that brought Moon back for Switch, and they're releasing it on PC soon. They did do a poll where they asked people, what games would you like to see? And Tulip and Rule of Rose just happened to be on that poll. So
It's the same guys. So the people who made those games originally now run Onion Games, according to
do
Wikipedia.
they?
According to
So
Wikipedia.
they can chase the licenses down. Well, I hope they can preserve that one. I mean, there's no reason that they can't preserve Rule of Rose except for the fact that it sold like 2 copies and there's no commercial imperative behind it. But I do hope they do because that's
It's
another
designed
PlayStation.
entirely for nerds like myself and Matt.
I just remember the box art and remember wanting it and never having it because I didn't have a PlayStation 2 at the time. But going back to a game I do want to play is Glass Rose, which is the original Sing game, and it was a Capcom game. So I'm circling back to Capcom. There we go.
See, Capcom did all kinds of weird, crazy, creative stuff.
This is back
They
when
really-
Capcom actually just didn't care. I loved it.
They were desperately looking for the next big hits, with the PlayStation 2. I don't know what the business, health was like, but
It was just Shinji Mikami made Resident Evil. Give him money. We don't care.
They were throwing darts at the dartboard like crazy and just hoping for one to stick. I mean, Resident Evil 4 stuck, and that's why we have Resident Evil being such a kind of dominant property for Capcom now. But they had so many horror games. There was another one, Gregory Horror Show, which was never even released in America. It was just released in Europe. But Gregory Horror Show is spectacular. It's for listeners on the podcast, also you guys, Trapdoor?
The show, don't you open that trap?
Yeah,
door?
that's the one.
Yeah.
The claymation, right?
Yeah, it was
so
great. With Blue.
Gregory Horror Show is basically that aesthetic, but in Japan. Rather than clay, they use kind of primitive 3D models, but they do it in a very aesthetic way. And it is just brilliant. It was one of those little shows that ran for 2 minutes at a time and was kind of filler between other shows at late night TV over in Japan. And it has a cult following. So Capcom decided to make a game about it. And it's this really cool little stealth horror kind of, probably stealth horror. There's no other genre there. It's a stealth horror game where you need to follow. It's I've never played anything like it since. You need to follow these characters around, and you need to observe them in their daily habits without them catching you, and then you need to startle them somehow. And when you do that, they give you their soul because you need to give that to death.
Oh my god!
And when you give the soul to death, then they become kind of soulless, and they just chase you around for the rest of the game. So you start with just 1 or 2 people chasing you around. But
So it's
by the end of the
Pac-Man.
game,
It's Katamari Pac.
by the end of it, there's 12 of them, and it becomes really hard to go anywhere without some monster seeing you and just chasing you like crazy. But it was really good. It was creative, it was different, and again, Capcom just throwing darts at the dartboard. It was a great time for creativity, We don't have that anymore. Like
See-
we get so many more games now. Like every day we get 15 games released on every console. But that spirit of creativity where the big games were different and interesting as well, I just don't feel like we have that anymore.
To be honest with you, I want another version of this world where instead of Resident Evil 4 getting big, God Hand got big.
Was God Hand
God-
PS2?
Yep.
God Hand was PS2, and it was a 3.8 from IGN because they couldn't play the
No
game.
way.
They gave it a worse score than Imagine Party Babies on the DS.
Dude, God Hand is
It
an
owns.
institution. I can't believe that that's not available today.
God, that game is so good. It's a little bit problematic now, in all honesty. There's a couple of things in that game that are just like, okay. But that game is awesome. And honestly, like all the Capcom 5 are extremely good. Piano 3 is cool as hell.
Piano 3, that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that's a great game.
7 is like it's an acid trip in the nicest way possible.
Oh, Killer 7, of course. That was a Capcom published game. See, the Capcom did the most crazy stuff.
Literally
I
just
think.
Capcom
Killer
did
7's amazing.
Yeah, that game's cool as hell. I have that one quote of that main dude being like, "Those bastards are multiplying," stuck in my head, and will never leave my head. I'll be like 85 years old and like falling apart at the seams, but I'll still have those bastards are multiplying in my head.
The good news is that Killer 7 is one of the few that has been preserved. You can get that on PC now.
That game now, yeah, it's
Yeah.
worthwhile checking out. It's if you like Suda, and if you're probably listening to this podcast, chances are you probably like Suda. So, like, yeah. that
Oh,
game's
another one, Drakengard. We're not going to see Drakengard saved anytime soon. Drakengard was Mr. Yokotaro's first work as
yeah,
a
that game is
independent
weird.
creator, and it's nuts, like in the best possible way. But it's in theory it's Dynasty Warriors plus RPG, but in practice it's something wildly
In
different.
practice, it's exactly what you'd expect from Yoko Taro, but more unhinged because he was not like he wasn't used to writing games yet, so it was just extremely all over the place. That game is really cool. It's not fun to play. Watch a playthrough, in all honesty. Watch a playthrough and then tweet.
I don't know. I'm enjoying playing it again. Like I'm having a good time with it. It's,
Yeah, not to get to the final ending though. The final ending is horrible to get to. But yeah, tweet it. Whoever owns the IP. I don't know who owns the IP. Who owns Drakengard?
Square.
Is it Square? Okay, tweet it Square. Get them to remake it like they did with Replicant. Do it. Do it,
They won't,
cowards.
though.
You won't.
They won't, though. Unfortunately, they will not do that. I mean, Square Enix, if any company is going to preserve stuff, we know what Square Enix is willing to preserve versus what they're not. And
Every
Drakengard
single
is not.
Final Fantasy game.
I mean, I would love to see the whole trilogy of Drakengard thrown together as a package, 1, 2, and 3.
I think we can do without 3.
No, 3 was good. I enjoyed 3. 3 was energetic, and I really enjoyed what 3 brought to the table. It was Yoko Taro.
One who liked 3.
It was Yoko Taro in comedy mode, and it was pretty funny.
I hated the character of the dragon though. The dragon was the most annoying piece of shit ever, and I hated him. Ban
Yeah,
him
but
from
that was
this
the
world.
point. That was the point.
No, I want him to die.
It's subversion, Alan.
Subversion sucks when it just makes me angry. That's not a PS2 game. I will say though, I have such a soft spot for the like PS2 era platformers. Like I went back and played Jak and Daxter 1, like the precursor Legacy, this year I think. Yeah, it was early this year. Had a great time with it. It's just like a good time, and it brings me back to being like 5 years old and being excited about the fact that I press a button and jump happens. You know, it's absurd. It's so stupid, but like there's something about PS2 era games that it's 100% nostalgia, but I just really, really like them. And I find that they're often the most interesting.
I don't think it is nostalgia, though. I mean, nostalgia is what got me to go and download the emulator and these games again, but it is a quality about them that I think the PlayStation 1 is pure nostalgia because it was the first time that developers were working with 3D. They didn't really have the rules set down in stone, so there's an awful lot of games that were good ideas but were executed horribly on the PlayStation 1. But by the time the PlayStation 2 came around, they had it better. So I think the PS2 for me is like the first time that issues with the structure of the game kind of went away and the focus then became the ideas of the game themselves, if that makes sense. That
Yeah.
it was the first time that games started to feel like
Technology was no
Yeah.
longer a limit. It was a
yeah,
freedom.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they had control over the cameras. They were able to produce character models that weren't just a couple of blocks standing on top of one another. And they really used that in ways that were interesting. They also didn't have the set in stone best practices for game design that they do now. So not everything was another open world game. Not everything had RPG mechanics in it, because RPG mechanics means engagement with the content. You know.
Do you remember when games used to end, Matt?
Yeah, it's amazing. And it also
stopped, and it was like, oh, cool, that's the end of the game. I'm going to go move on and go outside and play cricket in the backyard.
And also games were not nearly as long. Like, it was okay for a game to be 6 to 8 hours. I mean, Clock Tower got slammed a bit for being on the short end, but it was only 3 or 4. You can get through that one very
game,
quickly.
and they're meant to be through repeatedly. God damn it.
But the longer games, I'm putting aside the RPG, because Final Fantasy 10 was still, 40 hours long or whatever it was. But for most genres, for most games, for most developers, it was fine for a game to be 10 hours long. That was a good length game that gave you a good amount of content and allowed the developers to actually finish their thing. These days, you can't make a 10-hour game. You get slammed for it.
You could never release Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 2 in 2022.
No, you couldn't. But even stuff like Manhunt, Rockstar made Manhunt, and Manhunt is an excellent game if you're into really creepy games. But
oh my god, Matt!
Manhunt was the last time I enjoyed Rockstar. But that was not a long game by any means, and you just can't imagine that Rockstar would make a game that isn't 300 hours long and designed to be played into perpetuity.
Bully was good.
So,
Bully was from that era, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bully was from that era.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Bully was end of PS2. It was like 2006, I believe.
So
it was also not called Bully in Australia. It was called Canis Canem Edit, because Bully was seen as too rude for children to see.
Yes, and Rockstar was very good at getting themselves censored in Australia. Manhunt 2 was actually banned in Australia too.
Still everything's been banned in bloody Australia. I'm banned in Australia. I'm not allowed to.
Still is. I can assure you though, Manhunt was not banned because it had, eat the food, your clothes explode, and then you lick blood off yourself. That was not what happened in Manhunt 2. It was banned because of violence. I think it was one of the few games that has just been so violent that they banned it for that reason.
Will someone think of for children, Matt? What if the children play it?
I think the original Manhunt was also banned, but retrospectively, I think I remember actually getting that game from the video shop. Remember video shops? I remember getting the game from the video shop to play because I was interested in it. And I took it back, and then it was gone when I tried to hire it again. And then I discovered it was because it got banned on review, and I was never able to play it again until now. And yeah, so I think both Manhunts were eventually banned in Australia. But they're really cool. If you haven't heard of them before, they're kind of snuff.
It's kind of like a puzzle action game, weirdly.
It's stealth. It's kind of stealth puzzle, yeah, where you've got to collect kind of bits and pieces from around the environments and use them to shank dudes when they're not noticing.
It's just like being in Parathel.
Yeah, you got to stealth kill everybody. But
what that means.
The thing that made those games different was that it was a commentary on voyeurism and stuff, because the game played through the perspective of somebody watching all this stuff on TV. It was like Saw, it was murder for entertainment. It was the basic concept of it. And Rockstar was actually pretty smart about making commentary about it. It was pretty intelligent game, really. And yeah, I was a big fan of Manhunt. Anyway, we'll move on. Let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about Goichi Suda-san himself.
We're going to actually put some music on from Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy.
Are we?
Here we are, yes. This is my classical announcer voice. And welcome back from that. So, it is a little bit topical because obviously Suda51 got his footing in the PS2 era in that generation, and now he's releasing his newest game, No More Heroes 3, which Matt has recently reviewed, I believe. And I think I saw the score, Matt. It was a 9. I believe it was a 4.5 out of 5, correct?
That is what I gave it.
Absolutely. I would recommend that you go read his review. Probably if you're listening to this podcast, you would have already read it by now, just because you can generally assume that the review on Tuesday Download is going to be quite accurate to what the experience actually is, particularly with Suda games. No, you know
that's
shit
very
about
kind
him.
of you.
No, you know shit about him. So yeah,
I do know my Suda. I've met him like a dozen times.
Yeah, he seems like a very nice boy.
Dude is actually really cool. Like there's a whole bunch of developers that just aren't much fun to meet and talk. And when you do an interview with them, they're very stilted, and it's just this is what the corporate people have allowed me to say. This is what I'm saying. Ask your questions, then just move on. But Suda's always been like a really nice interview. He's a good dude. I've got all the time in the world for him. I'd be a little bit intimidated if I was to meet, say, Kojima, because Kojima's my dude.
Because if you had an interview with Kojima, he would bring Norman Reedus, because Norman Reedus is his best friend in the world, and I love that.
Unless he started to name drop Che Guevara, because apparently Kojima's a fan of Che Guevara, which is pretty cool. We could bond over that. But I was a little bit intimidated when I met Yoko Taro, because he is a difficult guy to talk to. He's like lovely. It's not about that. He's just difficult. But Goichi Suda is always down to earth and very easy to chat to. So I've got all the time in the world for Suda, and very big time fan of No More Heroes.
Yeah, I mean, so my introduction to Suda was the game known as Shadows of the Damned, where he was the most held back man in the world. But even then, playing that game, I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, this is like fun. And also like
it's pretty funny.
Pretty wild.
It's pretty funny. I tried to talk to Suda about Shadows of the Damned once when I was interviewing him for my book, and he made it pretty clear that he was not happy with how that game turned out.
Yeah.
He was like, it was like EA made me do shit. He was like, this is not my. He all but said, like, this is not my game. This is EA's thing. Please don't talk to me about this. I want to move on. Let's talk about Lollipop Chainsaw. So that's what we did. It is a good game.
My first Suda game sort of thing. It's like, it's got enough craziness, but it's also very westernized at some point. So it's like a bridge between the two worlds. If you're like, some, person like me, I was like, I want this game. This looks cool. And then it's like, yeah, it is cool. And then you start exploring all the weird games. Not weird games,
is pretty cool.
The more exotic games compared to that. It's like Lollipop Chainsaw. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty good game. Shadows of the Damned is a pretty good game, and it does have
it has a Johnson
jokes. We said the same thing.
Yep.
The Johnson jokes.
I love the fact that they just went for it and called the big Magnum gun the big boner. Like they just did it. They had the opportunity and they just went for it and they grabbed it with both hands.
They just leaned in.
Oh, it's great. That game is awesome. I wish that they would re-release it, because it was on the Xbox and then they had to delist it for some reason, and I'm really annoyed because I bought the Series S wanting to play it and then it just disappeared from the sun, and it's very annoying, and it means I won't have to partake in a bit of criminal activity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know how to play that one anymore, because it was PS3, not 2, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm sure some folks on the internet are working that one out.
Yeah, there's a hacker man on the internet who wearing...
I'm sure there's places to go to play PlayStation 3 games today, but that's still a little bit early for me. Still a little bit recent for me, so I'm not willing to dip into that just yet. But
wouldn't the Xbox game work on the Xbox, the newer Xbox, if you have the disc?
No, I've got
that's a good
Series
question.
S. So if you've got a
why did you buy an S?
Because I wanted to spend £10 to get a new console.
I buy the Xbox All Access Pass through my Telstra, and I get like an Xbox, and I get like the Xbox Pass, and it's like a monthly cost of $50 a month, and I'm set.
I'm also interested. I'm also really interested, Trent, if Lollipop Chainsaw works on the new Xboxes, because that's a game that can't be saved. There's no way to rescue Lollipop Chainsaw, which is for me Goichi Suda's best game. it's just full of licensed music. There's like 20 different licensed songs on the soundtrack. So to bring that back would be a monumental effort that I don't think anybody's going to do. And that means it's stuck on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. I'd be interested to know if you can play, if backwards compatibility has saved that one in a way.
Well, I've got both discs for Shadow of the Damned and Lollipop Chainsaw, so I might try it out at some point.
Can you try it out and let me know on the Twitters, please, Trent? Because I'm quite... I would genuinely consider buying an Xbox for Lollipop Chainsaw. Just for Lollipop Chainsaw. If that's the only way I can play it again.
Too, isn't it?
It is.
It's a pretty pricey disc.
Yeah, it is. Funny thing about Lollipop Chainsaw is it's actually also, it's not just Goichi Suda, he worked with James Gunn on that one. And James Gunn being the director of the recent Suicide Squad film and Guardians of the Galaxy. So
he did a zombie thing before, right?
Major Hollywood. Well, you know where James Gunn came from? He came from Troma, as in those really trash Toxic Crusader exploitation films. That's where James Gunn came from.
That really aligns well with whatever Lollipop Chainsaw was trying to do.
It was basically his path. He went from those Troma, Z tier sexploitation films to Lollipop Chainsaw to Guardians of the Galaxy. So dude had a career path. Dude's had a career path and a half. But yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw is a mix of Goichi Suda and Gunn. Gunn wrote it, and Suda made it funny, I guess. Made the wildly creative game that it is. I still reckon that Lollipop Chainsaw has the best boss battles I've ever played in a video game. So I don't know if you guys have actually played the game, but each of the bosses in Lollipop Chainsaw is basically the personification of a genre of music. So you fight punk music, then you fight Jefferson Airplane style hippie music.
Well, isn't the entire thing is that it's the goths have ruined the world because it is always the goths?
Yeah, pretty much.
What is this, an episode of South Park?
Yeah, essentially, but not shit.
And yeah, it's really funny. Those boss battles they're all really good. Like the Jefferson Airplane hippie style kind of music. I don't know what genre is that, Alan? Tell me what.
Just sort of the folk pop, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, that boss is
describing
just that boss is just brilliant. That's my favorite boss.
It's just Mumford and Sons. Just go to listen to that and be like, I hate that, and then never listen to it again.
I like Jefferson Airplane. I like them. They're a good group. White Rabbit. Anyway, yeah, that was an interesting game by Goichi Suda. Also, Nick on a head, Nick's head, just kind of hanging off the belt there because.
Oh, it's fantastic. No, because he's Navi, but he's a head.
Yeah. So he gets bit by a zombie at the start of the game. This is Juliet's boyfriend. He's the jock, so he's like this great footballer, quarterback, all that stuff. Anyway, he gets bit by a zombie right at the start, and the only way to save him is to chop his head off, which he survives for some reason, and then Juliet just carries him around on her belt for the rest of the game. The thing was, I remember Lollipop Chainsaw got slammed for being this misogynistic game for some reason by a lot of the media. And a lot of the
because a lot of the media wasn't actually literate in media.
They saw cheerleader uniform and they're like, oh, this is perv. This is a perv game. But actually, it's exactly the opposite because Juliet is this really super empowered, super smart, character. She's got all the agency in the world. She's the one doing all the saving. The dude Nick is kind of the subservient to her. And it was just subverting every expectation you'd have of cheerleader uniform game, and nobody got that. People missed it.
It's interesting because when that game got released, it was there were a lot of exploitative games getting released. I don't know if we would call Blood Rain this, but the energy of the Tomb Raider series in the PS2 era, that was the attitude that people had.
Yeah, absolutely. It was still a kind of a hobby for boys back then. And the developers were definitely making games for the male gaze to get feminist theory about it. And this game just decided to flip that on its head completely. And they did. And people missed it. I don't know how they missed it, but they missed it. It's like people miss everything about Goichi Suda games.
Speaking
Like,
of male gaze, do you guys remember Killer is Dead?
Killer is Dead?
Yes.
Oh, Alan hated Killer is Dead. I loved it.
That was the first game of his that I played, and I ignored all of the male gazy bits. But that game also had very good boss battles.
Yeah, that game was great. That was the first game that I got a sense of Goichi Suda's love of music, like just the way he references everything. Like
To me, it was a little bit like David Lynch.
Being a whole level is a pretty good thing.
I mean, I love personally that like all my favorite Japanese creators seem to be obsessed with music. Like I love Araki because he just names everything after music, and it hurts the reptilian point of my brain, and it makes me go like, I like it, do more of that.
And all the low roar in like Death Stranding, so good.
Oh, Kojima's got a great sense of music.
Oh yeah, because he put Nuclear by Roy Orbison in Metal Gear Solid 5. Like hell yeah, he did.
Yeah, Kojima's great.
Yeah, he's a good boy. I don't know. I'm excited to play more of Suda stuff. I'm actually really happy as well that he's getting more and more attention from the West, because before, like you say, oh yeah, I played Killer 7, everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Killer? What is a Killer 7? What does that mean? And I can't really answer either, to be quite honest with you. So like,
yeah, nobody can actually answer that question.
No,
I always assumed it was like a pun on James Bond, like, 007. So it's like Killer 7.
Well, it kind of is.
Yeah,
in a way.
It's a super spy schlock fest, I guess, is the best way to describe that, with zombies, but also everyone's the same person.
If you ever want a good laugh, go back and try and see how look at how the critics, the reviewers of the time, tried to actually describe Killer 7 when they were reviewing it. They're like, oh, this is an on-rail shooter. And it's like, well, yeah, technically.
It is, yes, but also...
but also, no.
Is it an on-rail shooter because you control yourself?
Well, also, it's like, yeah, that's kind of missing the point. That's like saying, a game where you jump is a platformer. So Mario is a game where you jump. I mean, that's that's true, but is that really what you want to be writing in a review here? But yeah, Killer 7 just refuses to be explained.
It's one of the most baffling experiences you can possibly have, because you can't explain it in a way that makes anyone else want to play it.
I feel like if you're just focusing on like the mechanics of a game, or trying to explain the mechanics of a game,
no, not even
it's
that.
an on-rail shooter, like it sounds like there's nothing else that the game is doing well. Like, and I feel like with a Suda game, like it just makes no sense that there isn't. Like, how do you not pick out other things to be like, oh, this is what the review is about, but it's also a shooter, yay. Like, I don't know.
The thing is that ultimately the game is like this anti-American imperialism, anti-nuclear war thing. But you don't get any of that.
Most games tend to be, yeah. They all devolve into that.
To get to that point, you've got to really play the game, because there's just no logical progression to actually explain that is what the game is about without having played the game. It makes sense once you do it, but you could write a book on this game and still not explain how it actually gets to that like end point. It's complex. It's great. And on that note, maybe we should give this podcast a wrap. What do you reckon? Alan's falling asleep over there because it's like late.
Alan's the new Wiggle. Wake up, Jeff. It's now wake up,
Wiggle.
Alan.
No, but see, I'm not right wing enough. I'm gonna be a problem. I'm gonna convince all the children to change genders. That's my goal.
Alan's too woke.
Yeah, that's my problem.
We become woke, become broke.
He's going broke. yeah, the Wiggles. The Wiggles.
Oh.
We should put a little bit of context of that in the podcast. So we had one of our lovely politicians come out and talk about like the wealthiest band in Australia's history, the Wiggles. They got so much money they don't need to do anything for the rest of their lives. Anyway, he was like, because they hired a ethnic person, I think it was, wasn't it? Or was it?
They hired a whole new team, essentially.
Yeah, they had a whole new team, including an ethnic person, including was it a non-binary? A non-binary person. Or a mascot was non-binary.
Oh, no. Yeah, the mascot was a unicorn, and we needed to know if the unicorn had a penis or not.
Yeah, that's right. That's the unicorn was non-binary. I can't believe I just said that sentence. But anyway,
it's not the most ridiculous thing I've heard. It's fine.
they did that, and then one of our politicians was like, "Oh, the Wiggles, they've gone woke, they're going broke." It's like you're a bit of a
No.
drip there, mate.
So you
Anyway,
think, Matt? No, I just want to be very, very clear. When I was a child and I was watching Henry the Octopus, I was thinking, I wonder if he has 8 dicks as well. That was mine.
that sounds like something you would do, Alan. Anyway, on that note, let's give this podcast a wrap because let's let Alan go and have happy dreams about octopus dicks. Thanks everybody for being on the podcast. Thanks Trent. Thanks Harvard. Thanks Alan.
What a horrific sign off.
It was a bit. Thanks everybody for listening to this
Truly
podcast. If
vile.
you managed to get this far. I really appreciate your effort to put up with us. We'll be back next month. In the meantime, play lots of games. We've got a lot to play this month, and we'll have plenty of updates on digitallydownloaded.net. And I don't know what else should we say. We'll wrap this podcast with some music from Killer 7, I guess. You can find something from Killer 7, right?
Oh, I can absolutely. I was going to suggest that myself personally, so it actually works out quite well.
It's good music. Goichi Suda's good boy.
Don't octopuses have cloacas? Octopuses have cloacas. 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 Octopuses have